Let's speak about Workhorse, baby. What is happening, investors? It is your boy Jack. I am not a financial advisor. I got the hoodie to prove it. And today we're speaking about our favorite company. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Usually on a Friday I give you all of the most up-to-date information in regards to Workhorse. And guys, let's be honest, there hasn't been too much of significance going on. I expected between Jerome Powell speaking and Louis DeJoy speaking, there was going to be something massive. And there really wasn't. I thought this was going to be the most action-packed video I've ever gotten the chance to make on Workhorse, but the news isn't there. So what I'm going to attempt to do today is give you guys my price targets based on what happens with the USPS contract going forwards and Workhorse getting certain percentages of that contract. Now when I'm speaking about price targets, I want to make things extremely clear. These are just my personal thoughts and opinions. As I just said, I am not a financial advisor. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But I get asked this question potentially more than any other. What do I think is going to happen to Workhorse stock price when the USPS contract is announced? And that's what we're going to talk about today, baby. So guys, right before we get into the video, can I please ask you to hit that juicy like button? I would really appreciate it. It helps me out big time. If you're new around here, hit that juicy red subscribe button, people. Join the family. It's free to do. And drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you think is going to happen to Workhorse stock after the USPS contract is announced. With that being said, let's get into it, people. I think most of us will agree that there is 5 main things that could happen here. We get 0% of the contract, 25%, 50%, 75%, or 100%. You could potentially argue 33% reoccurring as well, but this is the general consensus of what may happen. So I mean, let's start it off with 0%. What happens if Workhorse doesn't get any of the contract, in my opinion? Okay, so let me bring you back to before there was hype in regards to this USPS contract, okay? There was a little bit of rallying, a very small amount of rallying, and then we shot up in value. Prior to all of this, they were trading between about $2.50 and $3. They were as low as the $1 for a considerable period of time as well. This is all just in the last 6 months. Now, I don't think we're going back to those levels, not by any means whatsoever. The USPS contract is what brought Workhorse onto a lot of new investors' radars, but a lot of investors have gone ahead and actually done their due diligence, myself included, and realized that this is an absolutely amazing looking growth stock. I've said it in loads of past videos. Workhorse is not a USPS contract. There is so much more to them than that. At the same time, there is absolutely zero doubt in my mind that some portion of the USPS contract is already priced in. I don't think anybody will argue that. If the USPS contract wasn't a thing, we would not be at these price points. Let's just put it that way. Now, if Workhorse doesn't get any of the USPS contract, I think we are going to see a really sharp pullback. And that's for 2 main reasons, okay? The swing traders who are in, hoping to make a quick buck off of the contract happening, will get out and they'll have no interest of getting back in. Then the long-term investors who really do believe in the company but aren't stupid, understand that it's going to go down in value, will sell, which will push it down even further with the intentions of buying back in later on. My expectation, honestly, would be that we would see a very short-term, very severe pullback of anywhere from about 50 to 75%, so potentially somewhere in the $5 to $8 range, and then a lot of people will buy back in because they're going to get in at a much cheaper price. Me, for example, right now, guys, I have a cost basis of $16.03, and I really believe in this company in the long term. A lot of people might think I'm crazy when I say this, but I think that this could be a triple-digit company in the future without a USPS contract. Now, that could be a long way down the line, but I do think that is a very real possibility. So if my cost basis is $16, okay, and we don't get the huge short-term catalyst that is the USPS contract, obviously the price is going down. I won't be ignorant about that. I more than likely would sell with, and this is the most important thing, with the intention of buying back in. So, short and sweet answer, I think we'd have a big pullback towards the $5 to $8 range, very short term. I mean, over the span of maybe a day, 2 days max. Then people will buy back in, and I think we'll regulate somewhere around the $8 to $10 range. That is genuine that I think would happen in a 0% contract situation. What do I think the likelihood of a 0% contract situation is? Very low. Like, genuinely, I would say less than 10%. That is why this is a company I've put more money into than any other company, because I believe in them so heavily, and I think they have the short, medium, and long-term catalysts. So, we get 0% of the contract. I think we go to $5 to $8 short term and regulate at $8 to $10. Now, what if we get 25% of the contract? And I think this is something that is a possibility. I definitely think it's more than 10% probable that we get 25% of a contract. Well, let's just think about it. We all know Workhorse is kind of traded between $15 and $17 or so for the most part over the last month. We generally have a market cap between maybe $1.6 billion up to $1.8 billion. I think we also understand that we're trading at very high multiples right right now. In the last quarter, we recorded sales of $92,000. We currently have $105 million in cash available. That should not be 10.5, it should be 105. And that is enough to ramp up production to hit our target this year of 300 to 400 vehicles delivered and fund next year's operations as well as take us into 2022. Now, one other thing I want to say in regards to their financial positions. I mentioned earlier on that Jerome Powell spoke yesterday. And I'm not going to get too into this because this could be a video in itself, but if you have no idea what's going on, the Federal Reserve updates permissible inflation. So the Fed announced a shift to average inflation targeting, AIT. You more than likely will start seeing this a lot from a specific rate. So the goal is actually to permit periods of higher inflation to balance out the lower ones. Say for example, you want on average to keep your inflation per year below 2%. If during really good times you had 1% years or even 0.5% years, the average inflation targeting would mean that you could go above that 2% for a short period of time, such as now when we're in a really economically tough time, and it would still average out at that 2% goal. This can be good in particular for emerging growth companies who may not have the best balance sheets in the whole entire world. Practical effect is lower rates for even longer, which will mean raising capital or getting loans for a business like Workhorse should be easier for even longer, which again from an investor's point of view is a good thing because it should somewhat negate any future share dilution that may have been on the cards, because I know that's a worry right now. Now that's not a guarantee by any means. We still could see some new shares issued if we need to raise capital, but I don't see it happening. We'll have to wait and see. But this is just something I wanted to slide in there really quickly. This is important. So we're at that market cap of, let's say, 1.7 billion. 25% of that will account for, let's just make it $1.6 billion to make it easy. And that is over the span of more than likely 5 to 6 years. Now we also have to keep in mind that generally stocks trade based on what's going to happen in the future, and they trade on fairly high multiples, especially growth stocks like Workhorse. So in the first year of that contract, Workhorse may get about $250 to $300 million. And then again, you have to think about margins. You have to think about how much of that's actually going to be profit. But I do think that in the short term, Workhorse getting even the smallest percentage of this contract is going to send us shooting up in value. We have peaked out well in excess of $20 a share in the past, just based off of hype and speculation. A lot of you guys may think I am underestimating what's going to happen here, but my price target would be about $25 to $30. And honestly guys, it would be more so around the $25 to $27 range. But it's so hard to know, how many new investors are going to get involved? How far can the hype push us up? And there is also one other catalyst that will be coming into play at the same time. Lordstown Motors more than likely will go public around the same time this could be happening. So I do understand that argument, and it could potentially go up in excess of $30. And I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if it went up as high as $35+, but this is what I think would be relatively realistic. But I mean guys, that is still absolutely nothing to sneeze at when we have a look at our current price of $16.76. I still think that it's offering in the short term a 60 to 100+% return in a span of potentially a month. You don't need me to tell you that that is absolutely insane. And that is just for our 25% case scenario. Okay, so on to our 50% scenario. 50% would be very, very nice for this company. Let's just put it that way. And please do remember guys, these are only short-term estimates. I'm not taking into account all of the other growth factors that will more than likely kick in within the next 2+ years. Well, I mean, that equates to over $3 billion, which even after you take into account profit margins, etc., would be very, very tasty. 50% I think will be the magic number, that if people see Workhorse get that amount of the contract, literally everybody with a pulse is going to have immense confidence in this company. I think that if we get 50% plus of this contract, that's it guys. You never have to worry about Workhorse again. Now with that being said, what would my price target be personally? This may surprise a few people, but I would put it at about $35 to $40. You may think that seems a little bit harsh when you have a look at what my 25% basis was of $25 to $30, considering that technically this would be an extra 100% worth of income, but there is only so far that it's going to compound. But this is what I would expect to happen in the short term. Now as well, in the short term, with the 50% case scenario, I think it would be very, very volatile. Okay, I think we would see an incredible run to the upside. And again, remember the swing traders I spoke about here? I think a lot of them would sell off. So we could realistically see in excess of $40, but I think that this is where we would regulate out. That's what I'm trying to, say here. I'm not trying to say that this is the high we're going to hit. This is where I think we will somewhat regulate. And guys, $35 to $40 shares for Workhorse is insane given their life cycle, especially with all of the catalysts we have coming up within the next 2 years. I mean, Lordstown Motors going public for one. Let's speak about the drones that could be up and running within the next 12 to 18 months. Refrigeration, which would also have to lead to improved battery technology, which would just in general lead to better vehicles. And on that point, it could also lead to bigger and better vehicles. And I mean, you guys know there are just so many catalysts. Now, for me personally, guys, I think that these two are the most likely scenarios. I know a lot of people won't like to hear that coming from me, but that is what I deem to be true. And honestly, if we get 75% of the contract, I don't think that is going to make the biggest difference in the whole world than if we get 50%. It is an extra $1.5-ish billion over 5 years, definitely, which is very, very important. But in the short term, I actually don't think it would make that much of a difference. I think seeing us get 50% of the contract would be enough to fill everybody who wants to get involved with Workhorse involved. I mean, do you really think that there's going to be many people who say they only got 50%? If they had got 75%, I would have loaded up. I don't think there's going to be many people like that. Now, obviously, I would rather see them get 75% because I do think that could lead to a growth catalyst over the next few years, of course. But in the short term, I don't think it would make the biggest difference. This is what I would say, $40 to $50, but honestly, I would be erring more on the side of, low 40s, but I could underestimate just how much the hype could come into play right here. It is that simple. And keep in mind, guys, if it did go up to $50, that's literally a 200% increase in a very short period of time. And I'm trying to predict where I think it's going to regulate. No doubt in my mind, it could hit $50 and then come back down to what I'm trying to say, the low 40s. And guys, please remember, short term does not to me mean the day the contract is announced or even the week the contract's announced. It'll be, a month or two after the contract is announced. This is where I expect prices to be. And then 100% of the contract. Everybody's dream. Now again, I don't think we would actually see the absolute biggest difference in the short term between 75% and 100%. Let's just take a second to appreciate how much revenue that is for a company in Workhorse's position over the span of 5 to 6 years. Considering the fact that we brought in less than $100,000 of revenue in the last quarter. It really is an awful lot of money. Now, I have to be honest, guys, this is not a scenario that I see happening. And again, I know that's not what people want to hear from me because I am this Workhorse bull. I am the advocate for Workhorse. But at the same time, I do like to be somewhat realistic. If it does happen, in the very short term, as in literally within a day or two, we could see hundreds and hundreds of percents worth of a swing. I mean, there's going to be call options being executed. There's going to be people fear of missing out buying. There's going to be people like me just buying more because we think it's going to the moon. And then there would definitely be this very aggressive sell-off at 100% of the contract. The absolute lowest I would see us regulating at would be $45 a share. This is where I may get a little bit bold, but the highest I could see us regulating at would be upwards of $60. Now, $60 still to a lot of people may seem conservative, but that's what I'm going to say. And guys, realize here that I'm saying a best case scenario, we can see more than a 300% jump in the span of a couple of months from where we are now. A lot of people do like to throw around massive numbers. I know some people have triple digits in their sights by the end of the year. Who knows what could happen, but at the same time, let's try to be somewhat realistic. And with that being said, these two here, the 25% and 50% is what I think the most likely outcome is. I would be surprised if Workhorse is not above $30 a share by September. That is what I'll say. But again, I'm just one guy on the internet who is not a financial advisor, who has literally a hoodie on him to prove it. He has a clothing line to prove it. So don't take this as gospel. Anything could happen. And don't get excited by this here. Remember, there is potential for downside as well in the short term if good things don't happen. And I can already see the comments. It's like, you're just a stupid Workhorse bull. They're going to $2. Lol lol lol. And then I can see the other comments saying, you're not a true Workhorse bull. It's going to $100. Can't please everyone, people. But guys, there we have it. What I currently would have my price targets as based on a percentage of the USPS contract. So guys, again, when I give out price targets, I would like to make things extraordinarily clear. It's just my opinion. Absolutely anything can happen. This is relatively risky in nature still, people. Do not invest anything that you cannot afford to lose. That is what I will say in regards to a company like Workhorse. It's the kind of company where, we're either going to make a lot of money, or we're going to lose a considerable amount of money. And if that's not the kind of company for you, stay far away. But anyway, guys, if you have watched until the end of the video, you my true Workhorse fam, I appreciate you so much. You, my friend, are a true legend. If you did enjoy, please do hit that juicy like button if you haven't yet. Drop me a comment and subscribe if you're new around here, because those things help me out so much. I really would appreciate it. And with all of that being said, guys, I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day. I will see you for another video later on. Peace.